In the small town of Birmingham, Alabama, there was a popular hairstylist named Arkia Berry, known for her kind heart and warm smile. Arkia was loved by everyone who knew her, especially her family and friends. She had a 5-year-old son named Landon, who was her world. They were a happy family, and everything seemed perfect in their lives. But things were not as they seemed. Arkia was dating a man named Eric Ashley Jr., who had a reputation for being a little too controlling. The couple was seen together often, but no one suspected that there was danger lurking in their lives. One day, everything changed in an instant. The police received a call about a car accident in the Echo Highlands neighborhood. When they arrived at the scene, they were shocked to find something even worse than they had expected. Inside the car, they discovered that Arkia, her young son Landon, and her boyfriend Eric had all been shot. What happened? How did it all go so wrong? Arkia had just enough time before she died to send a message to one of her friends with the word Jaco in it. This message would lead the police to uncover the dark secrets of what had happened and who was responsible for this horrible tragedy. If you're captivated by real crime stories that peel back the layers of truth, make sure to hit that subscribe button. Your support means the world to us as we uncover real cases, raise awareness, and give a voice to the voiceless. Before we dive into today's story, we want to hear from you. Where are you tuning in from? And how do you feel as the story unfolds? Welcome to Deadly Crime Unmasked, the show where we expose the shocking crimes that rip through communities and the chilling secrets lurking behind closed doors. These are real people, real events, real consequences. Don't forget to subscribe and activate notifications. You won't want to miss the gripping story that's coming up. Now, let's begin. Arkia Berry was 28 years old when she tragically lost her life. She lived in Birmingham, Alabama, and was well known for her skills as a hairstylist. Arkia was a hard-working woman who took pride in her work and loved making people look and feel beautiful. Everyone in her community knew her as a kind and caring person who always tried to help others. Arkia worked as a hairstylist, a job she truly loved. She had a talent for doing hair, whether it was braiding, cutting, or styling. People would come from all over to sit in her salon chair because they trusted her to make them look their best. Her clients appreciated how careful and precise she was with every hairstyle, and they loved her positive attitude. They didn't just see her as someone who did their hair, they saw her as a friend. Arkia made everyone feel comfortable, and she made sure her customers left happy. Even though Arkia was busy with work, her son, Landon Brooks, was always her number one priority. She loved him very much, and everyone could see how much she cared for him. Arkia was a single mother, which meant she worked hard every day to make sure Landon had everything he needed. She made sure he was always safe, happy, and loved. They were a team, and nothing could separate them. Arkia would often talk about how proud she was of Landon. She always said he was the sweetest, most joyful little boy. She enjoyed spending time with him, playing games, reading stories, and watching cartoons together. Arkia's love for Landon was obvious to everyone who saw them together. Arkia was known for her warm and welcoming personality. She made people feel good about themselves not just because of her hairstyling skills, but because of her kindness. She would greet everyone with a smile and always asked how they were doing. Arkia didn't just listen to her clients' hair requests. She listened to their stories and their problems. Her caring nature made her a good friend to everyone who knew her. She had many friends who admired her because she was always there when someone needed help, whether it was helping a friend with a problem, offering advice, or just lending an ear to listen. Arkia was the kind of person who cared about others. Her friends would describe her as someone who would go out of her way to make others feel special. People also knew Arkia as a hard worker. She didn't take shortcuts when it came to her job, and she made sure every task she did was done well. Whether she was working long hours at the salon or taking care of her son at home, Arkia gave her best effort every day. She always stayed positive, no matter how busy or tired she was. She had built strong relationships in her community, and many people looked up to her. Her clients didn't just trust her with their hair. They trusted her as a person. They knew they could rely on her for more than just a good hairstyle. Arkia was the type of person who went above and beyond to make people feel valued, and that made her even more special. Arkia dreamed of a bright future for her son, wanted to see him grow up to be a kind and happy person just like her. She loved watching him learn and grow every day, and she cherished every moment they spent together. Landon was her world, and she would do anything to make sure he was safe and loved. At just 5 years old, Landon had a big personality. He was always smiling and loved to make people laugh. He would often greet everyone with a warm and happy face. Even though he was young, his energy and positivity made a big impact on everyone who met him. People who knew him said he was one of those kids who could light up a room just by walking into it. Landon's world revolved around his mother. Landon looked up to his mom and was always happy to be around her. He was her little buddy, and they shared a bond that many people noticed. When Arkia had a long day at work, Landon would cheer her up with his funny stories or by showing her his latest drawing. His smile and laughter were like medicine to Arkia's heart, making her feel happy even when life was tough. Landon was curious about the world around him. He loved to explore and discover new things, just like most 5-year-olds. He was always asking questions about everything he saw. Why is the sky blue? Or how do fish swim? Were the kinds of questions Landon would ask. His mom would patiently explain things to him, and they would learn together. One of his favorite things to do was visit the park. He loved running around, playing on the swings, and making friends with other kids. Arkia would sit on the bench, watching him play, knowing that her son was happy and safe. It was one of the simple pleasures they shared. Landon also enjoyed watching cartoons and reading picture books. Arkia would read to him every night before bed, and Landon loved hearing the stories. He would listen closely to every word, his eyes wide with wonder. Landon had a favorite toy that he always carried around. It was a small, stuffed animal, a bear that Arkia had given him when he was just a baby. The bear was always with him, whether he was playing outside, going to bed, or even during car rides. It was a comforting presence for him. Sometimes, he would talk to Bear, telling it all about his adventures and what he'd learned that day. The stuffed bear was more than just a toy to Landon. It was his friend, his companion, and a reminder of his mom's love. On July 13th, 2024, Landon, along with his mother Arkia and her boyfriend Eric Ashley Jr., lost their lives in a violent shooting. The three were found in a car where they had been shot multiple times. It was a heartbreaking and shocking event that left many in the community devastated. Despite being so young, Landon had already made an impact on everyone around him. His cheerful spirit and bright smile had touched the hearts of those who knew him. Even though his life was cut short, the memories of Landon will always stay with those who loved him, especially his mom, Arkia. Landon's life may have been short, but was filled with love, happiness, and curiosity. His story reminds us of the importance of family and how much we should cherish the time we have with those we love. Arkia and Landon had a special bond that many people envied, and that bond was built on love, trust, and joy. Landon may have only been 5, but he showed everyone around him what it meant to live with a smile and a big heart. Even though Landon's life ended in tragedy, his bright spirit continues to live on in the hearts of those who knew him. He will always be remembered as a cheerful, curious little boy who brought happiness to the world. Eric Ashley Jr. was a 28-year-old man who became part of Arkia Berry's life as her boyfriend. On the outside, their relationship seemed perfect. Arkia was a popular hairstylist, well-liked by everyone she met, and her 5-year-old son Landon was the light of her life. But not much was known about Eric, except that he was Arkia's partner and had been with her for some time. Eric was an outgoing person, meaning he liked to talk and be around people. He wasn't shy and enjoyed spending time with others. However, there was a side to Eric that most people didn't see. He often had a short temper, meaning he could get angry very quickly. When things didn't go his way, he didn't always handle it well, and this made his relationship with Arkia complicated. From the outside, Arkia and Eric's relationship looked perfect. They seemed like a happy couple. They were often seen together, and people who knew them didn't think there was anything wrong. Arkia had a kind and caring personality, while Eric, though sometimes controlling, was a man who appeared to be in control of his life. But relationships are often much more complicated than they seem. While people saw Arkia and Eric as a happy couple, there were signs that things were not as good as they appeared. Eric's controlling behavior was one of the biggest problems in his relationship with Arkia. A person with controlling behavior tries to make decisions for others and expects them to do what they want, even if it's not fair. For example, Eric didn't always let Arkia make her own choices. He would often tell her what to do, who to talk to, and how to spend her time. This kind of behavior can make someone feel trapped and unhappy, even if they don't show it to others. People who are controlling may also try to isolate their partners from friends and family. This can make it harder for the partner to get help or support when they need it. Although we don't know all the details about Arkia and Eric's relationship, it is clear that Eric's temper and control played a big role in their lives. Eric's temper was another key part of the relationship that made it unhealthy. Having a short temper means getting angry easily. When people get angry quickly, they sometimes say or do things that they don't really mean. This could have created a lot of tension between Arkia and Eric. For example, there might have been arguments that started over small things, but because Eric couldn't control his anger, they became big fights. These fights might have made Arkia feel scared or uncomfortable in her own home, but no one knew for sure how serious things had gotten. Eric's temper made him unpredictable. One day, he could be nice and caring, and the next day, he could be angry and difficult to deal with. This kind of behavior can cause a lot of stress and confusion in a relationship. When someone is always unsure how their partner will react, it can be very hard to feel safe or happy. Despite Eric's controlling behavior and his short temper, Arkia stayed in the relationship. It's not always easy to leave someone, especially when there are feelings involved. But it's possible that Arkia didn't fully realize how dangerous things had become. Eric's behavior could have made Arkia feel isolated and confused. She might have felt like she couldn't get help because Eric would get angry or stop her from talking to others. This kind of behavior is a big red flag in relationships, but sometimes people don't see it until things get out of control. When Arkia's tragic death occurred, the police found out that Eric's past behavior might have been the key to understanding what happened. Eric's relationship with Arkia, while seemingly perfect to others, was filled with tension, control, and anger. The fact that things ended so violently shows how dangerous controlling behavior and a short temper can be in a relationship. Not much was known about Eric Ashley Jr. before the tragedy. He was not as well known as Arkia, who had many friends and was a respected hairstylist in her community. Eric's background was more of a mystery. People who knew him said that he could be friendly and fun, but there were always warning signs about his behavior that were hard to ignore. Sometimes, people who are outwardly friendly or fun can have problems controlling their emotions or actions. This can make them hard to understand or predict. Eric seemed to be one of those people. He had a nice side, but his temper and need to control things made him a dangerous person to be around. Eric Ashley Jr. may have seemed like the perfect boyfriend to those who didn't know him well, but his controlling behavior and short temper led to a tragic end. Arkia and Eric's relationship was more complicated than it appeared. Eric's actions, though not fully understood, were a big part of what led to the terrible tragedy that took the lives of Arkia, her son Landon, and himself. By looking at Eric's background, we can see how controlling behavior and a short temper can destroy lives and relationships. This is a reminder that sometimes the people who seem the nicest on the outside can hide dangerous traits. It's important to pay attention to warning signs and to always seek help if you're in an unhealthy relationship. On a regular day in Birmingham, Alabama, Arkia Berry, her son Landon, and her boyfriend Eric Ashley Jr. left their home. They got into a car, seemingly heading to an unknown destination. No one knew it would be the last time anyone would see them alive. Later that day, police received a call about a car accident in the Echo Highlands neighborhood. Officers quickly rushed to the scene, thinking they were responding to a simple crash. But when they arrived, they found something much more disturbing. It wasn't just an accident. Inside the car were 3 people, all of whom had been shot. Arkia, Landon, and Eric had all been shot multiple times. The police were shocked. It wasn't just a car accident. They had stumbled upon a crime scene. Officers immediately cordoned off the area and began their investigation. They had no idea yet who was behind this terrible act, but they knew they had to act fast. Before Arkia passed away, she managed to do something very important. Despite the danger and the pain, she took out her phone and sent a text message to a friend. The message contained the word Jaco. This simple text would soon be a key piece of evidence. The police took note of it and began investigating the meaning of the word. They didn't know at first who Jaco referred to, but it seemed like it could be a clue. Arkia's final moments were now a part of the mystery, and the text message seemed to point towards someone named Jacorian Deshawn McGregor. Arkia's ability to send this text, despite everything happening around her, gave the police an important lead. The word Jaco led them to a man who would soon become the prime suspect in the investigation. The police started looking into Jacorian McGregor, who was 25 years old. McGregor was known to have connections with both Arkia and Eric, though it wasn't clear at first how deep those connections were. The police began to investigate his background, hoping to uncover more details that would explain why he might be involved in the shooting. It didn't take long for the police to discover that McGregor had been in contact with Arkia and Eric before the crime took place. They found that he had communicated with both victims in the days leading up to the murder. This was a strong clue that pointed toward McGregor's involvement in the crime. Next, the police turned to the surveillance cameras in the area. Many streets and buildings in the neighborhood had cameras, and they began to check the footage to see if anything had been caught on tape. It didn't take long before they found something that confirmed their suspicions. The surveillance footage showed a green Kia near the scene of the crime. The car was seen driving close to where Arkia and her family had been shot. This was another big clue, as the car matched the vehicle linked to McGregor. It was not a coincidence. The green Kia was McGregor's car. This was the breakthrough the police needed. With the green Kia on the footage and the text from Arkia leading them to McGregor, the pieces of the puzzle were coming together. McGregor had been near the crime scene, and the evidence was beginning to point directly to him as the person responsible for the deaths of Arkia, Landon, and Eric. At this point, the investigation was moving quickly. The police had collected a lot of information, but they still needed more evidence to make an arrest. They dug deeper into McGregor's past, looking for anything that could explain why he would want to harm Arkia and her family. They also checked his phone records and searched his home for any other clues. During their search, they found more evidence that tied McGregor to the crime. His phone records showed that he had been in contact with both Arkia and Eric before the murder, and the police found items at his house that suggested he had been involved in illegal activities. After collecting enough evidence, the police finally arrested McGregor and charged him with the murders of Arkia, Landon, and Eric. He was taken into custody and is now facing serious charges. The investigation into the tragic death of Arkia, her son Landon, and her boyfriend Eric shows how important it is to follow every clue. From a mysterious text message to the footage of McGregor's car, the police work hard to uncover the truth. Though the case is still ongoing, the evidence against McGregor continues to mount, and it seems clear that he was involved in the terrible events that took place that day. The investigation revealed that McGregor's involvement stemmed from a violent and unpredictable situation. The reasons behind his actions were still unclear, but it seemed that the relationship between Arkia, Eric, and McGregor had reached a breaking point. In every crime, there is always a reason behind what happened, even if it's not immediately clear. In this case, the investigation into the deaths of Arkia, her son Landon, and her boyfriend Eric uncovered some surprising details about what led to the terrible event. The reason why Jacorian McGregor, also known as Jaco, was involved in this crime was tied to a violent and unpredictable situation. The investigation team worked hard to piece together everything that happened before the shooting, but the full picture took time to uncover. Eric and Arkia had been in a relationship for some time, but there were signs that it was not always a happy one. Eric was known for his controlling behavior. People in the neighborhood noticed that he sometimes got angry and seemed very possessive of Arkia. He did not always treat her kindly, and this created problems between them. Even though they were together, it seemed like their relationship was full of tension. At the same time, Arkia and Eric's connection with Jacorian McGregor, the man who would later be charged with their deaths, added to the complicated situation. He had been in contact with both Arkia and Eric. While the details of their relationship were unclear, it was obvious that McGregor had an ongoing involvement with Arkia and Eric. The investigation showed that McGregor's involvement in the crime started from this place of tension. Even though the reason why he took such a violent action wasn't fully explained, It was clear that the situation between the three of them had reached a breaking point. McGregor's relationship with both Arkia and Eric seemed to be one of constant conflict. It was like a powder keg waiting to explode. The investigation team could see that McGregor had been in touch with both Arkia and Eric leading up to the deaths. These conversations were part of the lead-up to the violence that would occur later. Somewhere in the weeks or days before the crime, the situation became dangerous. The investigation revealed that McGregor, Eric, and Arkia were involved in an argument or fight that got out of control. This argument seemed to be the final straw that led to the tragedy. McGregor, in a fit of anger, decided to take matters into his own hands. He acted in a way that no one could have predicted. But even though McGregor's involvement was clear, the full reason for his actions was still unknown. Why did he think it was okay to hurt Arkia and Eric? Why did he decide to involve himself in such a violent act? The answers were hard to find, and the police were left trying to understand McGregor's mindset. In the days leading up to the tragic deaths, there were no signs that anything extreme was about to happen. However, the final moments before the shooting painted a clearer picture. Arkia, in her last moments, was able to send a text message to a friend. The text contained only the word Jaco, a clue that would later point to McGregor. It was clear that she knew something was wrong and possibly feared for her life. This was a sign that something had gone terribly wrong in the days before the crime. McGregor's phone and other pieces of evidence revealed that there had been tension in his relationship with Arkia and Eric. These tensions had been building for a while. McGregor's involvement in the crime seemed to be a result of all this unresolved conflict, which finally reached its breaking point. Even though we may never fully understand the exact reasons behind McGregor's violent actions, the investigation showed that the motive came from a combination of anger, jealousy, and a long-standing conflict between him, Arkia, and Eric. The relationships between these three people had fallen apart, and what started as small issues grew into something much larger and more dangerous. McGregor's actions were the result of this violent and unpredictable situation. He made choices that led to the tragic deaths of Arkia, Landon, and Eric. The day that Arkia and her son Landon were killed, the community in Birmingham, Alabama, was shocked. Everyone who knew Arkia was heartbroken. When the news of their death spread, people who knew them couldn't stop talking about how this had happened. How could someone so kind, a mother who loved her son so much, lose her life in such a horrible way? The whole community was asking the same question. Why did this happen? People started coming together to remember Arkia and Landon. They held a vigil to honor them. A vigil is when people gather together to remember someone who has passed away. It was a time for everyone to think about the good memories they had with Arkia and Landon and to show support for their families. Even though Arkia and Landon were gone, the people in the community promised to keep their memories alive. But even as people mourned, there was still a lot of work to do. The police had to find out exactly what happened that day. They needed to understand why Arkia, Landon, and Eric Ashley, Arkia's boyfriend, had been killed. Was this something that could have been stopped? It was also hard for police to understand why McGregor would hurt a young child like Landon. Children are innocent and should never have to suffer like this. This was one of the hardest parts of the case for everyone to understand. The police worked very hard to uncover the truth about McGregor's reasons for killing Arkia, Landon, and Eric. The investigation continued, but the community never stopped mourning the loss of Arkia